his mission was to find, shoot, and kill Brooklyn Sims. He found her, he shot her, and he killed her. His mission accomplished.
This is Court TV Live. We are your front row seat to justice. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's great to see you on this Wednesday morning. So this hour, we're showing you a murder trial out of Florida. Defendant, 20-year-old Keith Agee, faces a jury on one count of premeditated first-degree murder. Prosecutors are alleging that Agee shot and killed 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims, who was working at a local Home Depot as a contract employee. Agee and Sims share a 2-year-old daughter together, and the state believes that Agee killed Sims due to a positive STD test result that he received just days after being intimate with the victim. Now, this trial started earlier this week, and WEAR has been there for it all, and we're bringing you the very best moments from this case, starting with the opening statements from the state and the defense.
On August 11, 2023, this defendant, Keith Agee, was on his own mission. And what the evidence will show and the state will prove is that his mission was to find, shoot, and kill Brooklyn Sims. You are going to hear that this defendant left his job in Alabama. He drove an hour and a half to 2 hours from Alabama to Pensacola to the Home Depot. He parked his car in the parking lot. He walked to the front entrance of the Home Depot, and he literally walked directly to the aisle where Brooklyn Sims was working at that time. He then fired at least 7 shots from a 9mm handgun directly at Brooklyn Sims. At that point, he found her, he shot her, and he killed her. His mission accomplished. He then ran out of the store, he got into his car, and he drove away. As he drove away, he threw out the gun. He drove to a nearby parking lot over by the Lowe's, where he parked the car that he'd been driving. He left it there, and then he ultimately made his way to the movie theater on Bayou Boulevard. He called 911 to turn himself in, and then he was ultimately taken into custody. Those are the basic facts of this case. And the evidence that you're going to hear that will support the facts of this case will include cell phone tower records that will show this defendant's movement from Alabama to Florida. You will see video surveillance from the Home Depot. There was not a camera on the aisle where Brooklyn was shot and killed, but you will see this defendant walk into the store, and then you will see him run out of the store. You will see 7 spent 9mm shell casings that were found at the Home Depot. You will see pictures of where the firearm was found on the side of the road. You will hear testimony that this defendant's DNA is on that firearm. You will hear testimony that the spent shell casings from the Home Depot were fired from this same firearm. You will see pictures of where the car was parked and located that the defendant drove that day. And once it was searched and photos were taken, you're going to see a work jacket that was inside the car. It's blue and it has some yellow and white reflector strips on it. And when you see the video from the Home Depot that day, you can't miss this jacket. It also has his name on it and where he was working. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a very general overview of what the state believes the evidence will show during the course of this trial. And once you've heard all of the evidence and you apply the law, you will be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant, Keith Agee, committed the first-degree murder of Brooklyn Sims and is guilty as charged. Thank you.
I want to first thank y'all for bearing with us through the process yesterday. I know it gets repetitive and it took a lot of your time, so we appreciate you for being here today. I know, like the judge said yesterday, a jury summons isn't an invitation, but We appreciate your service, and we're asking you to pay attention today and render a fair and impartial verdict at the end of this trial. This opening statement isn't the time to argue, so I just want to touch on a few basic principles. I know this is repetitive, and we discussed them in depth yesterday, but they're important. We discussed the presumption of innocence, how in the courtroom setting, you're required to apply that presumption to the defendant like it's someone that's close to you, okay? And presume them innocent and believe they're innocent until you've seen evidence otherwise. We talked about how the state has the burden of proof in a case like this. They've brought the charges. They have to provide the evidence to back it up. My side has to prove nothing. I don't have to prove innocence or anything else. The evidence the state brings has to convince you beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt that a crime was committed and my client was the one that committed that crime. And you'll have these instructions given to you at the end of this trial in writing before you go back to make your decision. We talked about how every criminal defendant has a right not to testify, and if he chooses to exercise that right, it's not to weigh into your ultimate conclusion. You're not to hold it against him. A term you probably heard a million times yesterday from both sides was the term fair and impartial. And you all were selected to be on this jury because you all said you could be fair and impartial in a case like this. And that's what we're asking of you. Now, this is going to be a 2-day trial like we all expect. The way it's going to shake down is that today you're going to hear from the state. Tomorrow, if we put on a case, it will be then. And ultimately, at the end of the trial, both sides get to come back up here and argue what the facts you've heard mean. Now, this is going to be a bit different type of case than is normally tried in criminal court. And as far as that, I don't expect to contest a lot of the facts and the evidence that the state puts on. You heard the government's attorney tell you everything they anticipate showing to you. There's going to be high-resolution surveillance video from the Home Depot, scores of witnesses that are unbiased and impartial, cell phone tracking data. A lot of this stuff is not going to be in dispute. But at the end of this trial, I'm going to ask you to as being fair and impartial jurors selected to hear the facts of this case and ultimately reach a decision, I'm going to ask you to determine whether this was a cold, calculated, premeditated first-degree murder, as the state's charged it, or was it something else? Thank you.
Oh, what do you think so far after the opens from the state and the defense? Both sides framing the case in their favor. Let me bring in my guests. I have with me former prosecutor, also former SLED agent, the guy who famously prosecuted Susan Smith, Tommy Pope, and relationship expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you both. Wonderful to have you.
Good morning, Julie.
Oh, this case is something else, isn't it? The STD Revenge Killing cases. We're calling it. Full disclosure, the case is in progress, so we're getting caught up. I haven't seen anything yet. I'm just seeing what we're watching so far, these bits and pieces. So I've got some first impressions. I know you both do too, so let's get them from you right now. Ladies first. Dr. Sue, start us off, please.
I just want to know what's going on in Florida, right? I mean, it's just case after case. Here's my impression of what's going on right now. First of all, the attorney who is defending the young man, to me, has just thrown in the towel, okay? He knows that the state has all this evidence, and he's saying, you know, you have to decide here, you know, if it was premeditated or it wasn't. And you look, Julie, he brought the gun there, so I don't see how it cannot be premeditated.
Oh, yeah. He's in big trouble, isn't he, Tommy Pope, Keith Agee? He's telling stories up there. We're going to get to see him testify. A prosecutor like you, Tommy, would rip him to shreds on the stand. Tell me your first impressions of the way these attorneys are framing things, please.
So when we were listening, my wheels were spinning. First, why is this a trial? Was there not any negotiation at all? Any, lesser included, as you know, Julie, from your experience, you've got the victims' considerations, you've got justice, you've got all those things. I thought the defense attorney right at the end got to what, if I was doing the defense opening, I would have started with, which is, the lesser included angle. I mean, that's clearly what he was doing, a heat of passion. I think it's thin, but I think that's what he had to do. I think, the reasonable doubt and all the things we normally hear really aren't going to be much at play, and it probably was wasted breath for him. He should have started with his end, because at the end of the day, is there some legitimate heat of passion or whatever the qualifications are under Florida law that would bring it down? So clearly he's played his hand in that he is looking for some lesser included as a victory in this case for Mr. Agee.
Right, Tommy. A great point.